I'm Eva Lineberger.
And I'm Caroline Comer, and we are interested in gauging interest and awareness among App State students in the Blue Ridge Conservancy, a local nonprofit organization whose mission is to save the places you love.
So to give you a little backstory, last semester I had the opportunity to work with the Blue Ridge Conservancy to conduct a fundraiser or a campaign. We chose to do, based on what they told us, a student membership drive, and we kicked that off by having a photo competition in which students would be asked to go to different Blue Ridge Conservancy hiking sites and take a picture and enter the photo contest using a hashtag. And the whole thing completely flopped, and we think and know that it was because there was no information about these hiking sites online, and so they didn't know how to get there, they didn't know what they were, where the trailhead was. So this semester we decided to do some research to see how interested and aware students are of the Blue Ridge Conservancy so that they could see which areas are most important to students and how they can better reach the Appalachian State student body, which makes up a large portion of the population here in Boone, so that they can more effectively utilize their properties, that they wouldn't just be saving these resources and nobody would be there to use them.
First, we used SurveyMonkey to create a 14-question survey to collect all of our data on student awareness and interest. So first in our survey, we asked about student awareness, how people have already heard of the Blue Ridge Conservancy, to figure out what ways awareness is already being covered. And then we wanted to gauge student interest in hiking and places that students like to hike, places they've already heard of, and where they go most often throughout the year. So with this question, our intent pretty much was to figure out if trails that are maintained by the Blue Ridge Conservancy are being used by students, which later on we'll discuss that we found out that they're not being used nearly as much as other trails around the high country. And then we wanted to gauge student interest in volunteering and in conservation so we could figure out how students would most like to be involved in the Blue Ridge Conservancy. The Blue Ridge Conservancy offers a student membership in which students can pay for a membership. They can be offered incentives, and with this part of our survey we wanted to ask how much students would be willing to pay or what kind of incentives would make them more interested in joining the organization. And finally, we just asked how many semesters students have been here to gauge kind of age and awareness and interest.
After completing our survey, we wanted to send our survey to only undergraduate students. So we contacted the Office of Student Research and received a list of 1,000 names and email addresses. We decided to send out the survey at noon on a Tuesday, a time that we thought that students would have the time to take the survey, and we ended up getting 27 out of 1,000 responses back. And then we were able to analyze the results using SurveyMonkey and then Microsoft Excel.
After collecting all of our data, we decided to analyze a few specific areas a little more closely. This graph depicts how students at App State currently hear about new hiking sites and outdoor sites and trails. 56% find new hiking sites by word of mouth and 25% by a Google search. So obviously students are going to their friends, their professors, just other people around the high country to find new places to explore, and they're also taking it to Google to search for new places. Our second area that we decided to analyze more closely is how App State students would be interested in volunteering with the Blue Ridge Conservancy. The four main areas that students would most be interested in are trail cleanup, assistance in land conservation, leading hikes, and event staffing. These two charts depict the average number of visits per year that App State students visit certain hiking sites and locations. and the difference in trails that are run or maintained by the Blue Ridge Conservancy and trails that are not. This top chart consists of all trails that are not maintained by the Blue Ridge Conservancy, and this bottom chart contains trails that are maintained by the Blue Ridge Conservancy. Which the one trail that we found that students use most often that is affiliated with Blue Ridge Conservancy is Elk Knob State Park.
So based on these results, we wanted to talk about what can the Blue Ridge Conservancy do with this information. And obviously one huge way that students are learning about these hiking sites is through word of mouth. And one thing the Blue Ridge Conservancy does offer are group hikes. And so we were going to suggest that they begin offering those for students and teaching good hiking practices and good just trail behaviors and policies so that those things carry through with the word of mouth too. Maybe if you attended a group hike and learned some of these things, you could bring your friends along with you next time. And then as far as Google search goes, just increasing the Google presence, maybe offering information about your sites on multiple websites, even some of the ones that were listed, because those are things that come up on Google searches still. And then with App State outdoor programs, a lot of people, they come to college not sure what to do. They know that Boone has incredible recreation opportunities, but if there was maybe a brochure with these different hiking sites that included some of the Blue Ridge Conservancy sites, they could be used more effectively and by the student body. So by this chart, what the Blue Ridge Conservancy can really do is we have the 4 areas: trail cleanup, assistance in land conservation, leading hikes, and event staffing. And I think by focusing on those main 4 areas and sort of neglecting these in the process, we would get some really quality volunteers for these areas. Ways that they can do this is by promoting within the recreation management program, the nonprofit management program, and just getting students that are really interested in these things and have a passion for it. And there's other outlets like Greek Life, people that need volunteer hours, and partnering with those different types of student organizations I think would be crucial in getting volunteers for these things, and then thus raising awareness about these different places and practices that the Blue Ridge Conservancy supports. So using this graph in sort of a combination with the first graph, we can try to see which of these areas are being underutilized. The Boone United Trail, Pond Mountain, Crab Orchard Falls, and the Bear Paw State Natural Area. A lot of students had said that they've never heard of these and definitely have never been. So ways that we can do that is by looking at that first chart and seeing where are students not going and how do they hear about them, and sort of combining those two things and raising awareness for these different sites. So what we can learn from all of this information is that yes, students are aware of the Blue Ridge Conservancy, but they could be made more aware. There are sites that haven't ever been visited by a lot of students that love to hike because there's just simply not information out there. So we believe that by having the Blue Ridge Conservancy put this information out there about these different sites and activities that could be done there, that students would be made more aware and they would be better utilized, and not only would they use these sites, but they could volunteer to clean up these sites, and they could create just an incredible partnership between the university and this local nonprofit organization, and just gain some incredible human capital.